Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Tolu Odubanjo, and this is Talk to Tolu Toro. We're starting straight away from 8 p.m. and we'll be finishing by 9 p.m. And today's topic, we have back to school. And all you need to know about United Kingdom primary school system and high school system. And before we start tonight, please, I'd like you to please go and share this flyer and share the link any platform you belong to. And if you're on Instagram, please follow me, please, Tolu Toro on Instagram. It's very important. So you know what's coming up next. And that's where you see the flyers. And with me tonight, I have three fantastic, experienced teachers who's been in the system for more than 20 years to share with us tonight. Thank you so much. Please go to the chat section. Let's know where you're joining from. Let's know if you are Bosun from Texas or Atlanta. And if you are Oge from Preston, let's know where you're joining from. Please prepare your questions. There are three of them that are parents. In fact, we have granddad amongst us. So it's a very informal setting, and feel free to ask any question. If you want to ask a personal question and you don't want them to know you are the one asking, you can send me the, what's it called? You can send me the question directly. So no one is going to see that you are the one asking the question. That's still okay. But please feel free to ask questions. Thank you, Raf from Preston, Boston from Charlie, Oge from Preston. Thank you, and you're happy to be here. Please don't forget, go and share. It's very, very important for us to rub minds to get that tonight. There's some questions that will come to your mind and you don't want to ask in school or something like that, or you're asking on behalf of another friend or a family member, something like that. Please feel free to ask tonight. It's a very interactive, it's going to be a very interactive session. If you have any experience you want to share, please feel free to share. Another thing I want to beg you for tonight is to please show your beautiful faces, keep your video on so that our speakers tonight can connect. So just imagine if you are speaking to someone and you cannot speak their facial expression, and it look as if you're talking to nobody behind the camera. It's just show your lovely faces so we can connect. And don't forget to ask questions. Thank you, Adedayo from Nigeria. Thank you very much. God bless. Please don't forget, go and share the flyer, and the link has been provided. Thank you. Okay, now today's topic is back to school, and this is all you need to know about UK system, primary school and secondary school, as I've said. And with us tonight, we have Mr. Danny McGregor, who I've known for, I'll say, this is about 11 years. Yes, I'll say about 12 years I've known Mr. Danny McGregor. And he's a father as well. Let me quickly, and another, is a primary school teacher, a PE teacher who's been in the system, who's been everywhere in primary school section. And we have Mrs. Tola Alebioshu with us tonight. She's a mother as well, and she's an English teacher, and she's well experienced, over 20 years, and she's going to be sharing with us too as well. And at the same time, we have Mr. Akin Adediran with us, who is a science teacher, head of science as well, and he's been in the system, he's been a teacher for over 20 years. So let me quickly tell you about Danny McGregor. Thank you. Before you say thank you to them, Danny McGregor is where are you, Danny? I want to spotlight you. Not really spotlight you. Where are you? I can't find you anymore now. Danny, is your camera off? Okay. I can see you. Okay. It's okay. Danny McGregor, I've been teaching for 11 years with experience across all primary phases between the ages of 3 to 11 years of age. He specializes in physical education and spent 4 to 5 years running the primary education at Blackburn Rovers Football Club. He's currently teaching in year 5 in Skelmersdale, Liverpool, and have worked with some of the most disadvantaged areas of the United Kingdom, Blackburn and Skelmersdale area, with lots of cultural diversity, especially in Blackburn. And Danny McGregor I can say he's an international man. He's been to many African countries, and so I can relate. Thank you so much, Danny, for joining us. I sincerely appreciate your time tonight, all the effort. I really, really appreciate it because I know you're a busy person. Please go to the chat section and say, welcome, Danny. Welcome, Danny. Welcome, Danny. And I would like to introduce Auntie Tola to you. I call her Auntie Tola anyway. Okay. She is a teacher. Where are you, ma'am? Let me quickly get you back on board. And I'm just trying to put your face there. Okay. 1 minute, Danny. Okay. She is Auntie Tola Alibio. She is a teacher and a SENCO who is passionate and dedicated to inclusive learning. A current role as SENCO includes identification of students with SEN and organize appropriate intervention, ensure statutory requirements for students with SEN are met. Staff CPD to support SEN students, liaise with curriculum team leaders to adapt the curriculum to support SEN students, work with parents and teachers to support the needs of SEN students, learning work to observe how SEN students are supported in lessons and offer guidance, monitoring and progress to students through the graduated approach, assess, plan, to do and review, to mention a few. Also, a teacher of English to students from year 7 to 11, that is high school, teachers in the UK for over 20 years, but previously a teacher in Nigeria. You're welcome, ma. Could you please, everyone, go to the chat room and say welcome. Welcome to Auntie Tola. Sorry if I'm calling her Auntie Tola. I'm finding it difficult to change. Now, let me quickly welcome the third speaker or guest tonight. Where are you, sir? Let me quickly add you today. Okay, yeah. Thank you. He is my uncle, but I call him uncle. But his name is Mr. Isaac Akin Adediran. He was a graduate assistant at Ambrose Zanli, Ahmadu Bello University in Nigeria. He was studying for his master's analytics chemistry, trained in the UK as a science teacher at Greenwich University in 1994 and has been teaching since then. He has served as a key stage 3 and 4 coordinator, as well as head of science is currently a lead practitioner where he teaches as well and trains science teachers. Please welcome with me tonight, Mr. Akin Adediran. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Everyone go in the chat room and say welcome, Mr. Isaac Adediran or Mr. Isaac. Thank you. So, sorry, we'll be unmuting our speakers and it's going to be a very interactive session, as I've said. Please prepare your questions. There are things you want to ask your teachers, the teacher of your students or children rather in school, and you might not feel free to ask. Please feel free to ask here. As you have seen, they are very experienced people. Danny, can we start with the ladies, if you don't mind? Please, is that okay? Okay. Thank you so much, ma, for joining, for your time. Because when I was reading, I was saying send, S-E-E-S-E-N-D, and SENCO. Could you please tell us, what does SENCO stand for?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. When we say SEND, it's slightly different from SENCO. SEND means special education needs and disability, whereas SENCO is the person that is leading the SEND provision, which is special education needs coordinator, is what we abbreviate to SENCO.
Okay, special education needs. Thank you. I have some other questions, if you don't mind. Thank you for being brief. I I want to start taking notes. What are the things you see in the children that makes teachers think they have special education need? For example, maybe from your experience, maybe the parents have not picked it up and they see these children and they say, and you have seen the child and say, oh, this child has a special need.
At every level, and Danny will probably be able to expatiate more. From primary school, there are different milestones that students have to achieve. There is a stage where they need to be able to read properly. They need to be able to sound the phonics. So when they start missing those, and you start noticing that there are gaps there, whether literacy gap or numeracy gap, whether it's social emotional difficulties that you start noticing, and sometimes it could be behavior, it might be problem with spelling, it might be problem with hyperactiveness, it might be problem with sensory needs. So social, it could be social emotional, it might be social interaction. When all of those things are not secure in a child and they are not relating to other children the way they need to relate, and they cannot do what you expect students to do at a certain age, at that point, you need to be looking at teachers might raise concern, parents might raise concern, and especially might raise concern that obviously there is something not right with this child. And that is where we start to assess different things to try and discover what the area of need is. And it's not a cutoff, it's not quite clear. A lot of times, I think people might want to be quick to say, oh, it could be this autism, it might be dyslexia, but there are some times where it's quite neurodiverse, and you can only be able to specify the area of need based on the assessments that you do with the child or where you refer the child to, and a specialist diagnosis is made. That is when we can say a child has SEN need.
Thank you very much, Mike. Can I quickly ask part B of that question? Do you think every teacher has the duty of care to spot a child who has a special need? Do you think it's the responsibility of every teacher? Or are teachers trained to spot that in a child?
In education, especially in the UK, every teacher is a teacher of SEN need. And every teacher, as part of their training, would be trained on how to support SEND students. They might not be specialists, but they have a knowledge to be able to say, this is not right. There is something wrong with this child. And that is when they refer to the SENCO, and then we do further assessments to try and work out. So there should be no teacher that should say, oh, it's not my responsibility.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I quickly ask this question over to you, Danny? Being a sportman, because now that you have duty of care, SENCO, so I'm going to be asking a question in relation to that. Why you are teaching this during sports, let's say during PE, can you spot a child who has a special need, apart from you being in the classroom, can spot, help you spot a child with a special need, please?
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us, by the way. Pleasure. But yeah, even across the curriculum, even in PE, you're trained as a teacher, as someone who's working with children, to be able to spot someone who needs support in areas. So it might be physically, it might be mentally, it might be emotionally, like we said before. But also, teachers talk and staff talk. So if, I have my own class and I teach my class all the time. But in high schools, for example, if I was a PE teacher, I'd have loads of different classes. So you'd be in talks with all the other teachers and all the other staff who would pass on or just have a little look at so-and-so, you might need a bit of support with this and with that. So you're constantly, there's like a network around every child. So in every school, it's like a team that supports each child. So in primary school, your teacher is your main point of call because he or she is working with that class. So in my class, for instance, I've got a small class now. I've got a class of 20, and out of that 20, I've got 8 who are on support plans, SEN support plans, and I've got another 4 who are currently being assessed through it. So the 4 that have been assessed, I've started that ball rolling. 2 of which I spoke with parents and they raised concerns, not concerns, but they had suspicions. And the other 2, I've put forward myself, and the parents don't necessarily agree with it. But it's still, as a teacher, you've got a duty of care to the child, not necessarily to keep the parent happy. Your duty of care, really, your focus is the child. So I've had conversations with the parents and said, I think it's worth exploring. And we set that ball off rolling. And to be fair, the parents are on board. As long as you're talking with the parents and you're letting them, this is why I think this, it's not a bad thing, it's not a this, it just means we can get some extra support in this area. And it's going to, at the end of the day, it's just going to benefit the children. On the flip side of that, I would say, I feel like you touched on it before, that some parents or some family members, even children themselves, are quick to self-diagnose, and you've got to go through the assessments first. I've had children in my class, oh no, it's because I've got ADHD, it's because I've got this, it's because I've got autism. And actually, that's not the reason. Sometimes there's other things at play as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm still going to come to that anyway, because I want to know how some of the parents react, if they are happy with it, if they're not. Can I quickly go to you, sir, Mr. Akin-Adediran, please? If you, from your experience, if you have any child, you know they've got the potential in the science class and they're a bit laid back, have you been able to spot any challenges? Now, because we are talking about SEN, we are talking about SENCO and stuff like that. As we have duty of care as teachers, have you been able to spot a child from your science class, and how do you do with that situation? How did you help the child?
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone, and thanks for having me. It is not unusual to have children in class, in science classes, that they might require some aspects of or needs from the need from teachers, and how we deal with that. Obviously, there are so many of them that might have been diagnosed, and we tend to look at the paperwork before they come to us. So we look at all the things that may have been written about them and how to address the needs of these children. So majority of them, like I said, they have someone from the SEN department that will come with them, either to help them settle down or help them to write, because there are so many different things that happen in the classroom. So, so it depends on what type of need that particular child might have. And for the one you asked me, if there are specific areas where I have dealt with them, of course, yes. The first thing is, if I have one that has got support, maybe there is an adult that is following the child, I will first and foremost have a dialogue, have a chat with the LSA. That is, I have to kind of not necessarily teach, but I mean, majority of them are not, they're not conversant with what we do in science. So I will put the SCA or LSA through what the child needs to know. Although the child is going to stay in the class, but the pre-meeting with the LSA will enable the LSA to help the child while I'll be teaching others. Because we might have about 20, depending on the size of the class. So the LSA can help. While I am attending to some other students, the LSA can help, I can give, and there's not something we call them when we differentiate the task, right? So depending on what the needs of the child is, so I can differentiate the task for this child and the LSA can take it from there. So that's the way we tackle things. And there are others that we might not be able to handle.
I know.
Okay, where we need to refer them to the SEND department for them to handle.
Thank you very much, sir. Over to you, Ma. I just want to quickly find out, how do you separate behavior from special need, special need and behavior, when you know that this child, this is a behavior and this is a special need? How do you separate that, Ma?
Actually, there are some times where you can separate behavior from special needs, and there are some times where behavior is linked to the area of need. And I would kind of try and illustrate with an autistic child. Sometimes a child that cannot communicate, that have got social communication needs, the way they would communicate would be through behavior. And those behaviors need to be analyzed in order to know what area of need is. So, for example, a child might be making noise because of sensory needs. And that could come across as being disruptive. But that is a way of that child communicating that they need something, that something is wrong, that environment is not conducive. So you now need to analyze the fact that when does this child make this sound? When do they have this meltdown that we might call behavior? And in understanding the triggers for those behaviors would help you to support that child to deal with that behavior. And there are some times whereby misbehaving can be misinterpreted as special needs, where a child is much more able, there is no communication difficulty, there is no interaction difficulty, but then there are attention-seeking behavior that could be mixed up with special needs. And again, like I've said before, is the fact that you have to look at what we call the graduated approach, which is assess what is the problem with that child. What are the things? So that would be observation, that would be looking at their report, looking at the circumstances around them, because there are a lot of things that we call special needs now that actually originate from, in fact, research now shows that a lot of what we call ADHD now is actually trauma-induced. So you'd have to look at the circumstances around that child at that time. What happened in the family? Especially if that child did not have that behavioral problem before. Why has he now got to that stage where all of this behavior is manifesting? And in looking at that, in the assess situation, you now need to plan, what can we do to meet this need? You now need to do that thing and review it. So sometimes it is difficult to, they can be linked together, or they can be misinterpreted together. Because what we would, under the 4 areas of special needs, we have communication and interaction difficulties, we have cognition and learning, we have social, emotional, mental health difficulties. And under that, behavior is now there. We have ASD there, we have ADHD there, and we also have sensory and physical needs. So when you look at the fact that now, under the same umbrella, we have autism there, we have behavior there, it is sometimes no, you cannot draw a straight line of the fact that, oh, this child is just misbehaving, they don't have any SEN need. Because it could be the way that that child is able to express themselves to you, that something is not right. This environment is not right.
I understand. Thank you. Thank you very much. Tammy, this question is for you, please. You know, statistics shows that UK government has predicted that in 2030, there will be 600,000 international students. But as at now, as at 2024 years ago, 2020, they have met that target and the number could increase. So you, Danny, you've traveled to African countries, you've seen African children, you've stayed with them for a long time, you've been in and out of Africa, you know the difference between African children and the, you know, United Kingdom children, you've been a teacher here and there. From your own experience, how can a parent help students to deal with the cultural shock when the kids secure a place? I mean, for example, if they get admission into the United Kingdom and they're just relocating, for example, like language barrier and stuff like that. How do you think, how, as a teacher, what are your expectations for the parents to be able to help?
It depends really on the level of, I mean, your language barrier is your big one, but it depends on whether they've got any understanding of the language, because obviously that's to be able to understand what's happening. There's technology is a big one now with, I once had a little lad from Russia who didn't speak a word of English, and we communicated via an iPad. I spoke into an iPad and it translated it to Russian, and that without that we'd struggled. Now it was year one, so he was young, 5, 6. Within about 2 or 3 months, he knew enough English to learn. He was studying at the same rate as the rest of the class. I think that the older the child is, the harder it is. It's all, basically, it's about, you've got to work with the family and give every child the same opportunity. You've got to give them like the tools to kind of get by. The language, like I say, is a big one, but also you want them to keep that an appreciation of their culture, celebrate their culture. So you also let the other children in on that culture. So it's not just you as a teacher trying to support the culture change. You've got the rest of the class, you've got the rest of the adults at school as well, and just letting them know that children are children wherever you're from. Children are children, and children accept children as for who they are, no matter where you're from. And in my experience, that's been true. Children can be cruel and children can be kind, but they can be kind generically across the board. I think if you respect and get an environment in your classroom generally that respects cultural norms, that develops empathy and sympathy, that is a massive impact. If a child comes in to your classroom and feels accepted by the peers and other children, that automatically brings things down and makes it easier. And that's on you as a teacher and the adults in school to bring that school culture out. A big one is to know who and where to go to and when to go in school for support as a teacher. So I would know if I'm struggling to get through to a child or to help a child, I'd know I'd go to maybe my SENCO or to whoever it might be, but also for the children.
I'm a testimony to that. I remember, sorry to cut you short.
Yeah.
I remember when my son was it year 2 you taught him?
Year 1, Michael.
Yeah, 11 now.
Yeah.
You taught him year 1. I can remember because You know, when they complain about you told me one afternoon when I've come to pick him up, and you said to me that he does his work very fast and he finishes work very fast, disturbing others. But you didn't put it to me as he was disturbing others, because he finished his work and he was so playful, and you spotted that, and you were able to give him another work to do so that he won't be disturbing others. He finished his work way ahead of others, and he just wants to play, and he will be disturbing others, distracting them. But like what you have just said now, that you were able to spot some things and you're able to like help, help those children, to give them extra things. And I know you give him extra work home, but it's not every teacher who does that, who spot that in a child, that they rather label the child that this boy is always disturbing, is always distracting others in class. But you were able to spot that in my son. I was so happy that he started year 1. And when he got to year 4, and another teacher was complaining that after he finished his work, he's playful. Then I told him, give him work to do. Give him something to do. Let him tidy up or give him extra to do. That was a good one. I sincerely appreciate that, and I've thanked you many times. I thank you once again for that. I understand what you mean now. Let me quickly go to Mr. Adediran. Sorry, Danny, are you done with what you were explaining?
No.
Because I just tried to remember that now. Let me quickly go to Mr. Adediran and ask him this question. Please, everyone watching, if you have any question you want to ask of your own experience, what's happening to your children in school, and you want to ask question, please feel free to ask question. This is the question for you, sir. You can use the icon to raise your hand, and just, we will unmute you to ask question, or you want to share experience. This is question for you, sir. What are the options for a child who doesn't meet up with their grades for college? Because I know you are teaching high school. Yeah. Some college students, if they, what are the options they have? I hope you understand that question, sir.
Yeah, I do. Thank you very much. It's a bit challenging, that question, for so many reasons. The first one is, if a child doesn't make the grade, it depends. The child might want to do a particular course, but he or she might not make the grade. So if it is just 1 or 2 subjects, the child can go to college and then re-enroll for that particular one. The one I know mostly is the aspect of science and maths. So a child, majority of the one the ones that pass through me, they want to do something which has to do with science, say medicine, or they want to do all those top courses, and because that's the area I teach anyway. So they can go back to college, and they will have to take that as an extra course in the college. So that will enable them to proceed with what they want to do.
For example, sir, if they are doing biology, just their 3 biology, physics, and maths,
yes,
would they go back for their just year 13?
It is they will not be allowed to proceed to year 12 if they don't make it in GCSE. They can't go and do any science course if they have failed the science in
Okay.
GCSE.
Rather, how about they are in college?
Yeah, sorry?
If they are in college, if the situation is they are in college now and they are going to, uni.
Right. If they are in college and they want to, they are doing science-related courses, and they have not made the grade, right? Universities have options. So the only thing is that they will not be able to do the course that they want to do. Rather, they can give them a lesser one, or go through the idea of apprenticeship. Some of them go over and do BTech, right? And I've seen some of my students that just stay back 1 year and repeat because it's an extra cost for the government for them to repeat that course. Some of them stay at home and they retake the paper. So that is the option that they have. Either one, right, they are given, if, for example, a cutoff mark in university is you have to have maybe a B, and you don't make a B, you make C or you make D. Okay, there are other ones you can do which you will not be able to do your choice. So, but if you insist that that's what you want to do, I'll give you one good example. I was teaching one young lady 2 years ago. She desperately wanted to do medicine, and she failed the chemistry, right? She didn't fail it, but she got a C, and she needed a B, and so she needed an A. So, and I did not teach that child in GCSE, so she had to stay back, and she did it from external, right? And then she made it, and she's doing it now in one of the universities. So that's the option that you have.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Ma. How do I know if my child needs SENCO?
Similar to what I've said before. If say, for example, I'm looking at from the secondary school's point of view, by the time they get to year 7, when they get to us, I expect that they're able to read properly, they're able to comprehend what they read, they understand the basic maths that set the tone for secondary school education. If they are struggling in that area, you might need to be speaking to the SENCO. If you notice some sensory needs, if you notice some social, emotional difficulties, problem with social interaction, if a child is hyperactive and irrespective of what you do with them, they just cannot sit still, they just cannot focus, that might be signs that there might be SEN need that we need to explore. And a lot of times, especially if there is an area of concern, you would know, because obviously there are, from the moment kids are born, there are milestones that we expect them to be able to achieve. There are things they need to do every stage. And the moment a child is struggling with reading, with writing, with spelling, with forming letters, with interacting with other child, turn taking, all of the things that they learn in primary school, nursery, and that child is struggling, they are alarm bells to the fact that there might be an area of need that needs to be explored. And it's not. And one of the things that parents need to understand is the fact that the label does not mean this child is limited. Yeah. The label just means we need to identify what is the problem, what is the need that can be provided. And unless a diagnosis is done, the supports cannot be provided.
Yeah. Sorry, can I quickly, thank you so much. I want to ask Yomi A to please go on, ask your question. Go on, please.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you, Ms. Tolu, for organizing, Auntie Tola, Mr. Danny, Mr. Adeniro. Thank you, guys. It's been very informative to date. So I have twin boys. They're 14. We live here in the UK. One of the things I think Auntie Tola said that really made a lot of sense to me. So both twins have diagnosis of ASD, and one of them has an ASD and ADHD diagnosis. But I didn't really necessarily agree with it. And at the time when they gave him the diagnosis, they told me that the only treatment was medication, which I turned down. But you talked about trauma-inducing ADHD, and I think it kind of makes a lot of sense to me. The reason I'm actually putting my hand up is the other twin who has an ASD diagnosis and is in a SEN school. He's articulate, we have speech, we have slight behavioral challenges, but he's behind significantly in terms of his learning ability. And I've been desperate. He's in a special needs school, and I feel like they're pretty much just babying him there. And I'm looking for private tutoring that can help us get him to at least a point of maths and English GCSEs. How do I go about finding that? Thank you.
Where are you based?
London.
If you speak to your local authority, they should be able to direct you to private tutors that can tutor him in basic maths and English. And one of the things that I would advise at this point from an SCN point of view is the fact that I understand your point of view that you want the child to get GCSE, but we have to undo ASD from the very basics. The communication need has to be secure before we start building on that foundation. And we need to be realistic to the fact that unless the area of speech and language difficulty has been sorted, because don't forget that what we call language starts from sound, start from individual letters, sound, before we put it into words, before we use it to communicate. And unless those areas are secure, even if you put GCSE textbook in front of, can I just ask, what is the reading ability of the child?
He can read anything you put in front of him. He can spell most things. It's his comprehension that he struggles in. So when you start to, he understands black and white. When you start putting inferences into, if you give him a book to read, for example, and then you start asking things like, why was the mom upset when it was raining? You know, ask him to pick those kinds of things out to answer the question. At that point, he might start to struggle. If you say, who was wearing the black dress? But who was upset when it was cloudy, when it was a cloudy day? You know, when it starts to have inferences in there, he will struggle. And in terms of asking the local authority, I have tried. I had a caseworker that was very, very unhelpful. They haven't offered me anything. So I'm not getting any private tutoring from them. So I'm asking now, what can I do by myself?
Okay.
And just to also add what you've talked about, his language is on point, everything. We just have, we need scaffolding. There are gaps in there because we're a product of the lockdown. We came here in 2019. His father died in 2017. There was trauma, all of that. We came here in 2019. We went into lockdown 2020. So we lost 2 years. And the 2 years were year 5 and year 6, which were really crucial. So by the time he was going into year 7, they were like, well, they haven't had the time to work with him, blah, 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 blah. And another thing that Mr. Danny said, kids are cruel. He's very social, very friendly, but they're like, kids are cruel. As you get into secondary school, they will tease him. They will make fun. He will always feel less than. So we ended up in this special needs school, but they pretty much just play football all day.
Yeah, I think since you've done a lot of work with reading, with spelling, you can go find a private tutor.
How?
If you go
online. Sorry, and Stella, can I quickly, you don't mind if I just say something? Sorry to interrupt. Can you please give me your details, please? Send me your details, please. You can send it to me.
On the chat. Right, okay, if you give me, how do I send it to you?
You can send it to me now. Your phone number is
okay. Okay, I'll do that.
Yes,
okay.
Please, your phone number is okay. I will link you with someone, though they are impressed, they are in Lancashire. I'll link you with someone. I want us to discuss that outside of here. So I really feel, but please send it to me. I can feel, I can relate to what you are saying. Thank you very much. Please stay tuned. Don't go, because I don't want us to, you know, stay too long on that. But as you're saying it, I can relate. So can I quickly ask, somebody wants to know what is the difference? I think Mr. Adedino, can you please help us answer this question? The difference between sixth form and college.
Thank you very much. Mainly, if you say sixth form, right? Depends on schools that have you have year 12 and 13 that are attached to a secondary school, okay? That is sixth form. However, if you say the one that is standing alone, right? They call those one colleges. The difference is about, I can tell you about the discipline from my own experience. The one that is attached to a secondary school, they are much more disciplined. They have their regular teachers, regular timetable, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to college, when these children that are just coming out from secondary school, they now have a bit of freedom. They wear whatever dress they want to wear to school. They are very free. That is one other thing. And that on its own is a detriment to their learning, which is not the same thing as when you are in a secondary school, right? So those ones in sixth form, they tend to do better than the ones in colleges. Colleges have got lots of other courses that they can do. If they cannot handle the academic part. So sixth form, mainly, majority of them, they deal with the academic part. But colleges deal with all sorts. That's just the major difference. For example, you know my children.
Yes.
Yes. One went to college. Yes. Whereas she was given admission into sixth form, but she said, no, I want to. And it turned out that it wasn't a very good move. I tried to convince her, you know this place. I tried to convince before she was able to realize and came back to normal. She lost a year. But thank God that she eventually listened and got back to normal. But then that's just what I can say.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I would like to ask Adeyinka Kilani to please go ahead and ask your question. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So my question is quite similar to the previous question, but my case is slightly different. So I need advice for my son. He's going to be 17 next Sunday, and he's quite severely autistic and he's nonverbal. And he's been in a residential school for a year now. But what happened is this term, specifically because he came home for the 6 weeks summer holidays, and by the time he went back in September, he literally, I think when he came home for the holidays, I suspect that he thought he was back home permanently. So when he now went back to school in September, he just could not marry the two. You know, he didn't understand what he was doing back there. So the whole of this term, he's done no schooling at all because he just struggles anytime he's in class. So he hasn't been able to settle back into the routine of school. And the school is kind of at a loss now because they're saying that they're really struggling, that he just seems uninterested in anything. You know, he doesn't want to be engaged in anything they're doing. And so I'm kind of worried now. So they called a meeting maybe like 2 weeks ago. They said because they didn't want everything to collapse completely, they were calling like a multidisciplinary team to advise on what to do. But then I'm thinking, I mean, you know, I don't know what to do as his mother, because I really want to be able to get him to start learning again, which was the reason why he even went to the residential school in the first place, because he couldn't cope when he was doing daily going home and coming back to school. And now it seems like everything is about to collapse. And I don't know what to do. I don't know if you've got any advice for me.
Thank you. That would be Auntie Tola's question.
What I would suggest is the fact that if there is a problem, you might need to get speech and language therapist intervention, because obviously whatever has happened within that time has affected him in this, that has made the residential home that used to be kind of a safe place no longer a safe place. So that is where, while they are trying to, and you should be able to get that on a private level or through the school as well, if there is still funding for him to at least do it. Do you think he would engage with online lesson?
No, I doubt that. I mean, he uses he uses his iPad a lot, and he's so good with YouTube and things like that. But I don't think he will link it if it was a lesson that he was doing on it. He uses it to listen to. He loves music and all, so.
Yeah, I think what you might need to do is have someone, you might speak to tell the local council that you need a specialist teacher's support. Let them come and assess him. Let them look at what has happened. How is he engaging? If he's not engaging, why is he not engaging? That might help, because obviously they need to understand what has suddenly changed in his routine that is bringing this lack of engagement. We need to understand that in order to know what can be done. So probably an ed psych needs to come and observe him at home, or a specialist teacher needs to come and observe him at home, look at how he's interacting. And even if all he's doing is while he's interacting on the computer, while he's at home, they should be able to look at what is the problem, how can he engage, what can he do, what does he like? And based on what he likes, would it be the fact that he will be able to get back into the residential? And if not, what can he be doing while he's at home? If we are going down the homeschooling route.
Okay, the school is actually connected to the residential. They're next to each other.
Okay.
So he goes there he lives in the residential home, but the school is just like 5 minutes walk from the school. So it's something that he knows. He knows where the school is. He knows where the home is. It's just now initially he was in the proper house of the school. They had other children there, and he was living in the home but because his needs were so complex, they decided to put him in solo care. So he has his own little apartment. I mean, they just carved it out for him with his room, toilet, bath, and living area and everything. So because he's an only child, at home he doesn't have anybody competing for attention at all. And he went to the school, because we were trying to teach him how to adapt, because we know that when he's older now, he might need to go into a residential placement. But now that they moved into the solo care, I actually warned them. I said, look, you guys this thing could come back to bite us, because he's used to being alone at home, and you're not giving him a solo place even in the school. So anytime he's in class now, he acts up, because he knows that the minute he acts up, they extract him and they take him back to home. And so now it's become his permanent behavior. Every time they take him to class, he just starts to misbehave, because he knows that once I start to misbehave, I get taken away from the class.
Wow. Titola, do you mind if I give her your contact, Ma? Do you mind, please?
Okay.
So you can continue from here.
Okay.
Please,
all right,
ma.
thank you.
Don't mind. Thank you, ma. Thank you. Okay, Danny, can I quickly ask you this question, please? Someone wants to know what is the 11+ exam? Because they are migrants. They just came back. The education system is they don't understand the UK education system. And how do you prepare your kid for the exam? And when should you start preparing?
Yeah, I was just typing a response now, actually. Basically, so the SATs are basically a standardized way to get a clear picture of where a student is at academically. Although as an educator, as a teacher, as anybody who works with children will tell you, as a parent, that's not the only way to understand who a child is, where they're at. It's a standardized way, and as it stands, it's the way that it works here. Not all children respond well to it. I never did. I still wouldn't now. I failed my driving test 3 times for the same reason, just because of the pressure. But that's what we have now as a way to basically, when they get to high school, they look at the results and think, right, this is the best way to place to put this pupil, because ability-wise, basically. In terms of getting them ready for it, it's basically just as much you can do, as much you can do at home. Speak to the teachers, speak to your school. If there's anything that, I'm just reading part of your question there.
How can they
if you're still trying to understand the system,
questions and all that.
I would just ask the school. If you've got any issues, just ask. And if you feel like you're annoying people, and you're good, because the more you annoy it, the more they're going to want to tell you. Just even if it's just to stop you from asking, just ask is the best thing I can say. But in terms of what you should do to prepare them, speak to the teacher, and they will say, it depends on the child. I would say it's a bit, you want to adapt it to suit how your child learns and what your child's interests are. But the basic crooks and crannies of it are, read as much as you can. And it was mentioned before about comprehension. That's massive. The reading is the biggest weighted part of it, and the comprehension is a huge part of that. So it's not just your black and white word recognition. It's about, can you understand what you've read? Can you answer questions about what you've read? What might be coming next? Make predictions and talk about inference. It's all that comprehensions and the reading skills in part of that. So if there's anything I was going to focus on, it would be that. But obviously that is just a part, but it's the biggest part.
Thank you.
And speak to your teacher, because it depends on your child.
Ability. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Mr. Adeniran, this question is for you, sir. We are going to be rounding up soon. Please, if anybody have any question, let them quickly ask now. Can I quickly ask, sir? This is a very important question. It says, in the classroom grading or set for secondary school, we have something they call high school. We have set 1, set 2, set 3, like that.
Yes.
Quickly, briefly explain to parents who's just relocated to United Kingdom, what is the set and how do you grade the set? How do you judge, grade the set?
For set first. Okay, thank you very much. Because of time, it's a huge area. We just mentioned some, but I'll try and summarize as much as I can. The first thing is that when a child comes to UK, in majority of the school, what really happens is to put in secondary school, the one I know, is to, some schools will have a way of grading, of assessing the child. Where will the child fit into? That's the first thing they do. They have standard one. Some schools don't. So when they grade the child, there is no way that child can perform like an Einstein. So because of children, whatever happens, you will always need, or you find yourself in a new place, you are going to be agitated, there are so many factors that will come into play. So majority of them end up having to be in a lower set. And what does it mean by lower set? Lower set is what, we do kind of continuous assessment all along. And when we do those continuous assessment, we tend to grade students from we use so many yardstick. It could be the GCSE standard, depending on what year the child is. That's why I said it's huge. So eventually, that child is going to fit into a place. And another thing is, most especially in science, if you are going to do what is called the combined science, right? So you can have set 1, set 2, set 3, set whatever it is in that combined. And if it is the triple science 1, you can have set 1, set 2, depending on the size of the school. And the same grading system happens. If the continuous assessment puts a child all along in, say grade 6 and above, that child is likely to be in the top grade, in the top set. The same thing with combined. But if the child is having 5 or thereabout struggling, then the child is going to get to the other band of whatever, combined or whatever it is. There's an issue here. So when a child comes to school, if that child is not assessed, the child goes to the bottom group, unfortunately. It goes to bottom group. So, and if care is not taken, the way we teach the people in the bottom group, right, it's not the same way we teach people in the top group. So there are problems there. So if luck will shine on the child, the teacher there might identify that this child is very capable. Let's put the child in the upper set. But if otherwise, the child might struggle there. The child might become destructive. If what you are teaching the child is he knows it and he's been kind of pegged back. So there are so many things in that. My own advice is, I will say categorically as a Nigerian, majority of the people that come, most especially now, yeah, the people that come to UK, when they have a child that should be put in year 11, I will suggest, if it is, I'm not talking of private school, I'm talking of government school, it is a good idea, it's a good thing not to force the child to year 11. I will advise, this is me, and I've spoken to so many, even the one in my school. Why don't you try the child in year 10, such that the child will have a way to adjust one, right? And then she could be, or he could be put in the right set. Because if a child is put in a set which doesn't fit in, the child might not do well. It might be because of, I don't know, so many reasons, like I said. So that's about the setting. But if there are, I don't want to take too much of your time. But if you have any question about that, please feel free and call me. I will explain, because it's a bit tricky, and parents must have an input into it as well. You must have an input into it, and I don't want you to be bossed. Oh, my child was doing very well. My child is in private school in Lagos, is scoring A star, and you want the child to come in here and be in a triple science group, whereas they're studying something that is engineering, maths that engineers are doing in Nigeria, and they come here, he's doing algebra, basic one. The difference is just too remarkable, and you might think the child is not doing well, but it's just the where the child might find his or herself. That's all I can say.
Thank you very much. I wanted to say the syllabus might be totally different, or the way, I mean, the teaching method of teaching can be totally different as well. Can I quickly ask you this question, Ma? We are rounding up. Sorry, if you don't mind, you give me 5-10 minutes more. Danny, it's okay, 10 minutes. I've got lots of questions, but I'm not going to repeat questions. Have you have you experienced any parent refusing help from SENCO? What has been your experience, Ma?
Yeah, there are some times, because obviously, again, it depends on people's understanding of special needs. People feel like, oh, because of the fact that it's not well-versed in the African setting as much, the awareness is not as broad as we have in the Western world. And because of that, people have the mindset that, oh, it is something negative, In fact, there are some times that some people would even pray and be casting out demons when it is a child has autism. And as a result, even when a child is identified, parents don't want anything to be done because they feel like, oh, they would label them, they would limit them, they would not let them do what they want to do. So sometimes some parents will say, no, let them be as they be. And obviously, for anything you do, you need the parents' consent before you can do anything. So if the parent does not want them assessed, you cannot assess them. All you can just do is to support the child as the need arises.
Thank you very much. Danny, another question for you. Being a sportsman, and I know how can you help a child who, parents has asked me this question, that their child is loves sports a lot and performing well, but when it comes to their academics, the class lessons, they're not pulling their weight. How can you, as a sports teacher, help the child and the parents to achieve, to balance it? Let me say it that way.
To be honest, I don't think it doesn't have to be just sport. It could be anything. It could be music. It could be gaming. It could be anything. At primary level, a lot of it is the gaming, the YouTube and different things. But I'll go with the sports. If you're focused on the sport, and I can relate to it because as a child, that was me. I wasn't interested in academics as a kid. I was all about the football. But as an adult and as a teacher now, I would say that you've got to kind of engage whatever it is that they're interested in, that is their focus, to try and use that as a way of engaging them in class. It's not always going to relate, but if you can create an interest in what they're doing, it doesn't have to relate to the football or the sport. There'll be other interests. If you can try and hook them in on that, that's you've got a wedge, your foot in the door there. It's basically, can you get engagement? Can you keep them interested? Routine's a massive one. If you've got a strict set routine of this is now, and it might be a case of, in order to get your time at football or to get to your class or your football, whatever it might be, whatever sport, this needs doing. Or you might be in cahoots and talking with your sports teacher or your sports coach. It's basically by hook or by crook, using all you can with the adults available to you in the sport you've got to work together. There's loads of different ways you can go in to it. Depends on how much time we've got. And
no, we don't have time. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Please go ahead, sir. Go on, sir. I wanted to ask you. Thank you, Danny. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, Mr. Akin. This is the last question I have for you. In a nutshell, could you please advise us generally? You are a parent, you are a grandparent. Please, what would you advise parents in order to be able to work hand in hand with teachers to help support their child?
Thank you very much. Thank you. I know time is fast spent. Right, let me quickly talk about, there was a question you asked earlier on, which Danny eloquently spoke about. That is about 11 plus. Because I teach, my one is from year 11 to year 13, all right? So most people come to me about when we go to schools, primary schools anyway, because I do live with primary school. So 11 plus is designed for children that are in year 6, for them to be able to gain admission to those selective schools as well as grammar schools. Okay, that's why they have that 11 plus. So, and you can, if you want to prepare your child for it, you can download the questions online. There's so many questions you can download there, and then they come with the mark schemes as well. So that is about that. You can prepare your child for that. if you are so keen that your child should go to grammar school or any of the selected schools. That's one. Then my advice for parents, most especially those that are coming to UK, the one thing about children, you have to have time. You must create time to know what the child is doing, right? If, for example, a child comes home and the child is just left on his or her own without you monitoring, oh, what did you do in school today? What is this? What is that? Every child will want to play. This is a known fact. Every child will want to watch telly. Every child will want to be on the phone. So, but it's not just you that will steer the child towards the right path. You must create time to speak to the teacher. When we have parents' evening, please endeavor to go there and ask questions. Children come back home and tell you all sorts of stories. Another thing is that, look, all this macho way of dealing with things doesn't work. For example, you go to school, your child tells you this one, before you sit in front of a teacher, you are already very full and you want to be aggressive, and it does not work. Because I've seen so many. Right. One more challenge. Let me use this one briefly. I was teaching a top group, right? Science. And then I set questions, set homework, set other. And this parent wrote to the school that Mr. Ade is stressing my child. And then before they came to me, then the head of year wrote back to the child, to the parent, to say, please, in what way? Please expatiate. And then the parent wrote back that, oh, he is giving my child too many work to do. You can imagine. So that type of challenge, see, you need to weigh all those things as parent. Which is this person trying to help your child, or phone call home or anything like that? Please try to work hand in hand with the school so as to see to the progress of your child. Last but not the least, those ones that are coming, I've mentioned before, please and please don't insist that my child was Einstein from Nigeria, and as a result, he's coming here, he's going to be this, that. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. So that's all I can say. Find a way. One, if the school will tell you that, please, can you step back a little bit? Don't take that as an offense. It might be the best way to help the child, at least to find his or her feet. If they say that this course is not available, right? Okay, that is another thing, because there's a school that are close to you that you can be giving some courses that, oh, the place is full. I have one now that is banging. She just came. She wants to do triple science. We have covered about 3/4 of the course. So how are you going to fit in? So instead of taking the one that is available, you are banking on the one that might be difficult. And look, year 11, when we are finishing we're going to write the exam in May, and you are just coming in now. You want to get, so those are some of those things that parents need to look into. Which way, but overall, please and please work. Be kind to the school, to the teachers. Be friendly.
Thank you.
They will help you out.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Danny, any advice?
I basically 100% agree with what sir just said. I just reiterate exactly what you've just said there. 100%. Yeah, I agreed.
Thank you. Thank you. Any advice, ma'am? Last thing.
I cannot overemphasize the need for parents and teachers to work together. Teachers are working hard, flat out, to support your children. And I tell you, we are a team that is working to build the future generation. And unless we work together, these children, they would continue to play us against one another. Teachers are in this job to make a difference. They are in the job to touch lives. And we can only do what we do well with the support of the parents. And my encouragement to every parent tonight is the fact that the way you will support your children is the way you will support those that are with them for at least 5 hours every day of your day. Thank you.
Can I just add as well?
Yeah, go on.
It does, for a teacher and staff, not just teachers, anybody who works with your children at school, adding on to that, it doesn't stop when you take your children home. When you say the teachers are working hard, the teachers are working until 10, 11, midnight every night, marking your books, trying to think of how to engage this one child.
Holiday.
But you know, it's constant. These teachers are working hard to try and get not just the class so they can hit the target. It's not about targets. It's about the children, and every teacher has got into this job for that reason. And anyone who works in school is working really hard for your children. So it is a case of just try and work together. On the teacher side as well, it goes both ways. Teachers have got to try and work with parents. But with that, like I say, it's a massive, if you can work together, and you're going to get the results then.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I mean, just my little experience I have, anytime there is parent evening, I can imagine the teachers knowing each parent, the one that is troublesome, the one that is nice, the one that is supporting them. And I can imagine the teachers are like, brace themselves, ready for the parent, the way they're sitting on that table on parent evening. And what I do personally is to first appreciate them. I say thank you to them for your support, for everything, and just make them feel relaxed before they start talking about my child. And the one I know that it is true. If they say your child is not, is a bit, is talking too much in the class, I'm going to acknowledge that because I know my child. I say, oh yeah, it's true, but how can you help? Then I support them in a way that suggesting things for them, like, please, tell him off. Tell him off if he's doing that. I don't mind, you know. It makes them feel relaxed and it makes them feel appreciated, make them feel that, you know, you are supporting them in a way. Please, thank you so much. I don't know how to say thank you to you for all, for your time tonight. Thank you, Danny. Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate your time. Thank you, Auntie Tola. Thank you, Mr. Adediro, for your time. Everyone, please help me say a big thank you to them for joining us tonight. I hope they can unmute themselves. Yeah, they can unmute themselves and say thank you. Thank you so, so much. We might be calling
Thank you so much.
you.